Most directors have no idea how liquidation really affects them, and that is exactly why so many end up personally liable for company debts, bankrupt, or banned. They think it's just about shutting the business down, but liquidation is a legal process that puts you, the director, under the spotlight. If you don't understand the risks before it starts, you could lose your house, you could get disqualified, or you could be chased for debts you thought that were gone. Now, I've spoken to directors who were already drowning in stress. They've got HMRC breathing down the neck, creditors' claims are piling in, and then they hear the horror stories, the bankruptcies, people going to prison, reputations ruined. But the truth is, most directors who act early and they follow the rules come through this clean. The key is understanding what happens, when it happens, and how to protect yourself before the liquidator steps in. So, what actually happens to directors in liquidation? Well, control stops. The moment a liquidator is appointed, you, the director, lose control of the company. The bank accounts of the business are frozen. If there's any assets that are in the company, they now belong to the liquidator, and you can't trade in the company's name or take decisions in the company, okay? Then every single insolvent liquidation triggers a mandatory investigation into the director's conduct. That's what the role of the insolvency practitioner is. And if you're wondering, insolvency practitioner and liquidator is the same thing, okay? The liquidator reports to the insolvency service. Now, that doesn't mean that you're guilty of anything. It's a standard procedure. But if they find problems, that is when issues arise. Now, what they're looking for is, did you, a director, did you act responsibly when you found out the company had become insolvent? Okay? So if you're there and you're not sure, insolvency is defined in these ways. There's a test, corporate insolvency test. Test number 1 is called the cash flow test. Can you pay your business debts as and when they fall due? Yes or no? If it's a no, it's a sign that you're insolvent. Then there's the balance sheet test, and it's, are the liabilities of the company, are they more than the assets of the company? So if you total up everything that you owe out, loans, suppliers, HMRC, and you work out what your assets are, what could your stock be sold for? How much have you got to collect in? What cash have you got in the bank? If your liabilities are more than your assets, you're also insolvent on a balance sheet basis. And then there's the legal action test. If a creditor has taken legal action against you, and that could be a CCJ, a stat demand, or in the worst scenario, a winding up petition, it's another sign that you're insolvent. If you fail any of these insolvency tests, okay, you have got to change the way that you act in the business, okay? The minute you become insolvent, your responsibility is no longer to you and the shareholders. What you've got to do is make sure that the creditors' positions are not made any worse, okay? And an insolvency practitioner is looking is, have this director acted responsibly when they knew the company was insolvent? Or did they keep trading? Did they keep taking deposits? Did they start paying people in preference of other people? And this is when personal risk comes in. Now, I'm going to go through what I believe are the key risks for directors. First one is personal guarantees. If you have signed a personal guarantee on a loan, an overdraft, a supplier, credit card, or even a lease, these do not disappear in a liquidation. The person that or the company you've signed the PG with will chase you personally. And this is one of the biggest shocks that directors faced, because they think a liquidation wipes out everything, but personal guarantees survive. Now, this is a huge thing. I have talked about it till I'm blue in the face. It's directors' loan accounts. An overdrawn directors' loan accounts is another hidden danger. And if you've taken out money out of that business that isn't salary, okay, it sits as a debt on the ledger, okay? Now, just so you can understand this, most directors are told off their accountant, take a 12 grand a year salary and top the rest up as a dividend. So the easiest example is £1,000 a month through the payroll, and you are taking 3 grand a month. In your head, you might call it a dividend, but it isn't a dividend. It's a drawing in anticipation that the company makes a profit at the end of the year and your accountant declares a dividend. Now, if you're insolvent, the point we've just made, you can't take a dividend. So let's just run that scenario through. You're on £1,000 a month salary. In your head, you're taking 3 grand a month as a dividend, but you're insolvent and you've been insolvent for 12 months. Well, you go into insolvency, the liquidator will reclassify those 3 grand a month you've been taking since you become insolvent, and they'll convert it into an illegal dividend, okay, which turns into an overdrawn director's loan, okay? The insolvency practitioner is going to demand repayment, and on that example I give you, you've already got an overdrawn loan account of £36,000, and you could be taken to court. These are the areas where people can, in certain circumstances, lose their homes. It's really serious, okay? Another issue is wrongful and fraudulent trading. Now, again, that point you become insolvent is really important. If you kept trading while you knew the company couldn't pay its debts, you risk wrongful trading claims. Now, fraudulent trading is even worse. That is where directors actively mislead creditors. And that's things where, I mean, fraudulent trading can end up in criminal charges. I want you to imagine, let's say you are going out there taking deposits and you know you're never ever going to make that, fulfill the work to the customers who paid you the deposits. That is really serious, and that's what we're talking about when it comes to fraudulent trading. There's a thing called a preference payment, okay? So a liquidator is going to look at, after you become insolvent, who have you paid? Now, if you become insolvent and then... I had a guy call me yesterday, right? Real life example. He's been speaking to an insolvency firm who have told him that he's insolvent, he's got huge personally guaranteed debts, and they've told him stop paying HMRC and pay off, instead of paying your next VAT bill, pay it off your personally guaranteed loan. And I said, mate, if you do that, you are going to be hung out to dry. And this was from an insolvency advisor who I looked up online, that they're not insolvency practitioners. By the way, just so you know, I'm not an insolvency practitioner. My job is to help you, the director. I work director side. Remember, the IP is there to advise the company. I advise you, okay? But I work with lots and lots of licensed insolvency practitioners. Now, if he'd have done that and gone into liquidation, the liquidator would have looked at who he's paid and clearly seen that he has paid off his personally guaranteed debts to feather his own nest. He's preferred to pay them to benefit him, and the liquidator could very, very likely make that money that he's paid off those personally guaranteed debts, set it aside, and it becomes a personally, they would make him liable for that money that he's paid. And there's things called transaction undervalues. So when an insolvency practitioner is appointed, they're going to look at, were assets sold before the insolvency practitioner got appointed? Because it happens a lot. You'll see in my videos, I say you can sell the assets of an insolvent business before you appoint a liquidator, and you can sell them to a connected company. You can sell them back to yourselves. But there's some process that you must follow. Now, one of the things is you need an agent to value the assets. And the reason why you need an agent to value the assets is you're getting a professional to say these assets are worth between this and this figure. There's like an ex situ value, which is what the agent believes that they'll get at auction for your assets. And there's an in situ figure, which is the figure that he believes it's worth to a director who's starting again. And as long as your agent will write you a letter of recommendation to say your offer is a sound offer, when the insolvency practitioner takes the appointment, they'll look at it and they'll see that you've paid a fair market value for it. Because if you haven't, if you've took assets cheaply, they can be clawed back and it will reflect badly on you as a director. So all of these issues have quite negative outcomes. I mean, the first one's disqualification. When an insolvency practitioner is doing the report to the insolvency service, it's the insolvency service, they decide whether or not your conduct was unfit. And you can be banned from being a director for up to 15 years. Now, this is very rare for directors who were just simply overwhelmed. You know, yes, you might have debt to the HMRC. Yes, you might have an overdrawn loan account. It's mainly for common in cases where there's been clear misconduct. Bankruptcy is another problem. Listen, if you can't repay personal guarantees or directors' loan accounts, you could be forced into personal bankruptcy. It doesn't happen to everyone, okay? But it's a real risk if your personal liabilities are high. Now, if you've got lots of personal guarantees, I want to try and talk to you beforehand so I can give you some guidance on how you can deal with them post-insolvency. By the way, I forgot to mention, if anything I've said to you so far struck a chord, click the link below. One of my team will call you today and we'll go through everything with you in a non-judgmental, no strings, no obligation way, okay? Now, if you have an overdrawn loan account, the insolvency practitioner is going to ask you to pay it back. Now, if you have got very little equity in your property or you're in rented accommodation, it's very hard for that insolvency practitioner to make a recovery for creditors. I had a guy the other day and he couldn't understand why we believe that his overdrawn loan account would either be written off in full or it would be reduced a lot. And it was because this guy was in rented accommodation. He had nothing. Now, an insolvency practitioner is not going to spend 20, 30 grand chasing a director for no return at the end. It's not in the interests of creditors, okay? If you've got an overdrawn loan account, what you really need to do is understand your position, and you may quite possibly be able to do a negotiated settlement with the insolvency practitioner. We can really help you on this point. Please get in touch with us, okay? Now, for most directors, liquidation, it's the end of the company, okay? You're going to have to go through the investigation, but if no misconduct is found, start afresh. It's the directors who bury the heads in the sands or the act recklessly who get the worst outcomes. So what you can do now to minimise this impact on you personally, right? First of all, check your personal guarantees. Know what debts that you're on the hook for, and then have a plan to deal with those personal guarantees after the liquidation happens, because they're all going to serve notice on you and they're all going to want the money back. But the thing is with personal guarantees, most of them, 99% of them, will be happy to do some type of renegotiation with you. And that'll either be you extend the term over a longer period of time, or in some cases you'll be able to offer a full and final settlement, partial settlement. There was one the other week, he owed £130,000 to IWOCA and he got it settled at £50,000, but he could raise the £50,000, okay? Check your director's loan accounts. Don't be blindsided, okay? You really should have management information. If you're watching my content, I continually tell people you must have a QuickBooks, a Xero, Free Agent, Sage, whatever it is. And you need either if you've got the brain power to be a bookkeeper, that's great. Most people, I suggest you hire someone in. So you can understand on a monthly basis where your business is at. Are you making a profit? Are you making a loss? Where are you making the losses? But it also keeps you up to date on your director's loan account, because you can click a trial balance and it will tell you where your overdrawn, your director's loan account sits. If it's in credit and you go into liquidation, sadly you just become another creditor of the company and very unlikely you'll get anything back. But if it's overdrawn, the insolvency practitioner is going to ask you to pay it back, okay? It's really important, in my opinion, that you have all the facts about your director's loan account when you approach the insolvency practitioner. In fact, if you're worried about an overdrawn loan account, I want you to get in touch with us today. Stop recklessly trading. If you know that there's no hope point of recovery, you've become insolvent, but you know you're not going to get back on a firm financial footing, don't take any more new deposits. Don't pile up more debt if you know that you can't pay it. And keep records, you know. Keep records. Liquidators want clarity. Messy books cause suspicion and unnecessary work. And obviously get advice early. Because the earlier you act, the more options you've got. Could be a liquidation, could be a administration, could be a CVA. You might just need to negotiate with creditors. We can help with all of those. So how does liquidation affect directors? You lose control of the company. You're investigated. You may face personal liability for personal guarantees or directors' loans. And in serious cases, you risk bankruptcy or disqualification. But if you act responsibly and you get advice early, for most directors, it's a clean slate, chance to move on. Now, if you're a UK director worried about how liquidation could affect you personally, don't wait until it's too late. Contact us at Director First today. We'll explain your risks in plain English and we'll help you protect yourself. Now, if you've enjoyed this content and you want to find out more about what happens in a pre-pack, I want you to go over there and click on the video to understand how you can close a company down and buy it back and start again. It'll answer all your questions. It's a really good video. I know it's going to help you. Chris Worden, God bless.